What a 5D mystic can tell you about spiritual awakening guidance is that they forget to inform you that you're a human and that you have a 0 1 year old. And that's because I've noticed a lot of mantles of spirituality and spiritual bypassers. They are on Elsa's journey. So they have a show yourself, I'm dying to meet you. And that 3 year old is actually being ignored, and the 16-year-old is on a journey, kind of like Pinocchio with the wooden body. Okay, and so when they tell you you lose people, no, not really. That's not actually spiritual awakening at all. In fact, it's quite the contradiction, since true spirituality is a life of connection and meaning beyond the solo self. So it's beyond your body, beyond the narrative self, the relational self, the core self. So when you are behaving, and here's where, thank you, Janina Fisher, we will not pathologize you, those who are truly spirituality. And so 5D Mystic here in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, there's no laundry. There's emotions, though. We do personal development, self-help for those who want to be their self with emotional depth and mental depth. It's also called intelligence and mastery, and then physical depth and physical mastery. So you overflow with humanity, divinity descends, thank you, Sadhguru. Really what it is your restorative embodiment self, aware, and actively proactive agent. And I learned from Jesus how to do this, and God. Now I use other words because I'm a Reiki practitioner, I'm an Akashic record reader, I'm a tarot card reader, and I'm working to move into more of my holistic practices. So meditating, yoga, some people think it brings demons out of you. They don't get educated, so they lack the education, and then they have a big imagination for evil, and they still put it in the box of monsters. They don't know neuroscientists. Patrick McNamara, he studies the brains and what happens in the brain when there's nightmares. People don't believe in that, but there's flat earthers all over the place. They just don't call themselves that. So mantles of mental health and mantles of anything, it's a Pinocchio with a wooden body, and I'm going to equate it to a non-bilaterally integrated person, because their inner child is not being allowed to come out and play. They're fear-mongered by their silverback, who's their culty cult, traditional cult, and ethical cult leader, and they want that reality, which is why they tune in to those donkeys in and of themselves. So the 7 to 14 charming are donkeys to people like my brain. So if you want to move on over here, let me know. 5D Collective, welcome, Mystics in the Enlightenment Potential Soul Age Group, and or 5D Being Yourself, the Human Way. It's called Here's the 0 1 Year Old. Also 3 year old, I'm a solo self that lives a life of meaning and connection beyond it. And I'm a solo polyamory person because I create my 24 hours every day. It's a beautiful day. I wake up, I got meaning. I just looked at a flower. It's a beautiful. I'm not kidding, by the way. That's what happens when you were given the capacity, thank you, Gabor Mate, to be lovingly accepted. Thank you, Mom. Not to have to work for love. Thank you, Mom, again. And allowed to express all of my basic human emotions. Thank you. Yes, you should hear my 3 year old tone with my mother and my twin. I actually started working on it when I was about 16, all on my own, because I got it pointed out a lot. And eventually I'm like, it's not a representation of how I feel for either of them. And it's really, really reactive. And that's why now I know the difference between those words. And I'm not a reactive person. I'm a responding person, but sometimes, few times, yes, twice professionally speaking, I was reactive with the emotion of anger. And while some people say it's okay, I say, no, I have ownership of my embodied brain. You see, I'm not an angry Buddhist because I'm not a Buddhist. I'm an actual Catholic Christian. And I know how to be a restorative embodiment, self-aware person. Even with my panic attacks, my prefrontal cortex is locked in and loaded. So that's why I have the capacity. I'm keeping my book to where I need it. The limbic system is what other people do. Alert, 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 and they don't know how to do this. They can learn. You can learn here. So spiritual awakening guidance, step 1, you're human. Learn about your embodied brain. There's no demons that come out of you or monsters. Learn about Patrick McNamara and yoga. Portfolio ventral vagal toning exercises. If you learn about Peter Levine, you'll learn that muscles, bones, and tissues store trauma. So, some people, they find it hard to believe that their first 3 years of life, the implicit memory, has anything to do with it. But, again, we got flat earthers. So personalities, I think they're amazing. I have friends who have alters. Their personalities, they're all amazing. Now, some of their alters / some of their other parts of self, I like that word better, but I also heard that it's alters, DID, dissociative identity disorder. Yes, it's not something that has to remain. In fact, there's a woman who's healed And she's writing a book so she can share with all of those who have DID, you're not broken, but you're healable. And she's a therapist. She's a healed one. So you want to get a good therapist. If they're not healed, then you are going to end up with more donkeys. And that's okay, though. They all sing the same song. So we see them on Elsa's journey. Show yourself, dying to meet you. And they have mantles, superheroes, supervillains. So there's a law for a lot of things. And as for mystics, FYI, thank you to John O'Donoghue, who shared with Daniel Siegel what a mystic is: someone who believes in the reality of the invisible. And I'm going to share, we don't only believe, we actually perceive and we experience, and then we can understand. And here's where my quantum physicist, neuroscientist, and the esoteric metaphysics people, and I know for one of our content on community, I wrote 4D esoteric. Don't take words that I write as fixed. They're expressions of a moment in time, and it's a stream of consciousness, just so you know. I know that whole brains, the ones who work with their left and right, know this. Left brainers that don't want their inner child to come out and play are the ones who are going to take it literally. And I'm the one who doesn't understand jokes because I take jokes literally, and I don't know how to understand if you're joking or not, because really what it is my left brain wants to understand the joke, and I'm bicultural and a lot more. But let's put that to the side. I was just explaining how I use the word on purpose, but I'm not using it to mean that 4D is only esoteric. That's what I was trying to share with my community, the ones of you who will have read that post. And the other part that I was going to share from my notes, so processing anger, frustration, irritation, the unfair teenage energy, this can happen if you take the dysfunction and the dysregulated nervous system and allow yourself to re-regulate. So the choice is yours, but some people, they don't want to do that. They want to walk around, and that's where I lost my notes. So what I was trying to get to are those 6 basic emotions are very important. You're 0-1-year-old, and personalities are beautiful independently from if a person has alters, for those of us who have healthy self-worth and that are empowered women, men, or they. So we're not going to go armchairing, diagnosing people. We also won't call anybody a monster, because that's not what is. I have yet to see an actual, like physically speaking, Slimer from Ghostbusters, I'm thinking. Now, ask me what I've seen in my mind's eye. Well, let's see. I don't remember about that one. I have seen, when I do Reiki, I've seen angels and fairies, and that's been fun. And I have seen actually what I believe are, I forget how they're called, half, not minotaurs, but anyways, half horse, half man, small. And so that's fascinating too. But in my mind's eye, I've seen aliens in my mind's eye, green ones, as well as ones that are not looking like green. They look more like stars. But mind's eye, I know the difference between tangibly. So if you ask, did Maria see anything tangibly, visibly with her eyes? No, I know the difference. And that's what I'm saying. When I see 4D, besides esotericism, I know who they are, because they will talk about things that they have seen. In the absence of recognizing what we see in our mind's eye is not reality per se. Let's keep grounded again in earth, on earth. Okay, so some people, they don't want to be here, and they're in 3D, 4D planes, and I didn't think they would stay around, but they will. Okay, so spiritual awakening guidance is you becoming your 1-year-old, means you being able to love more people. Personalities, they're different. When people have adaptive child behavior or maladaptive, we have conversations. And then when people are self-aware with those, they get to bring to you, here's what happens, here's how I am, and you get to work with their lens. They get to work with you. And thanks to having safe haven, secure-based relationships with the healthy self-worth people, that's what 5D Collective is made of. We are those who want to do emotions and thoughts like grown-ups. It's really nice. It's your restorative embodied self-aware life. And it's your inner and outer well-being. It's integration of the brain. Being able to get here for DID lady took 6 to 7 years of therapy with Dr. Daniel Siegel, and then I don't remember how much more she spent with him, but she is officially having a lot of nice relationships, a therapist, and knows herself. And you see her again talking about her experience in my course. At least you won't see her until she publishes her book, and unless you're you're her patient, but I believe she only works with families or children. So you'll also see the ones who are mantles of mental health, and they do videos like how to be immune to a narcissist, and they continue their journey in the absence of becoming a human being who notices what words they're choosing to use. So demonizing any of the personality disorders is not okay, meaning it's not true. Now, obviously, we're going to have people who continue to do it because they lacked education for knowing that evil is a group of people that end up in jail, and that might include murderers, and that are of a forensic criminologist scale, Michael Stone, 1 to 22. They all need good therapy. So we have laws in place. We don't need to use words to demonize people, and we don't need to romanticize it either. So some people, they are romanticizing their pathologies, and you see them prancing around. Like when people are doing the whole attachment category stuff, or styles, excuse me. Yeah, that one's interesting. So we're going to talk about dating in a more romantic, serious way for my solo poly and my mono amory, and that'll be after this one. But for here, I just wanted to begin with spiritual awakening, guidance, and personalities and dating. Thanks to your capacity to love people just the way they are, and yourself included, with flaws and imperfections, that's what love is. Now, some people have this audacity, this idea, to actually share because they know that pure consciousness is unconditional love. They say, well, one, we don't need that word. And two, you didn't come here to master it. And I'm like, well, yes, you did. Because mastering unconditional love means you master your human being brain. It's an embodied brain. You master your embodied nervous, all of this. You feel more deeply, and you become an actual human who knows that your thoughts and emotions are not irrefutable facts, so we don't have to deal with your adolescent 12 to 24 attitude and any of your trauma. So hurt people who hurt people or do push and pull, hypervigilance, all of the codependent, yeah, they don't have to actually stay in what is a mantle of mental health, a mantle of spirituality and spiritual bypass land, and say that we're not here to embody pure consciousness. So yeah, you are here. You can embody pure unconditional love in this lifetime. I've heard it enough times. I won't be at this lifetime. And when I see that, I'm like, yeah, why are you talking about people as having negative energy? What do you think you're doing? You think your energy is positive as you disengage from taking ownership of what you just spoke out of your mouth, which is, maybe I won't be kind in this lifetime. I'll just be a bitch. Why not? Because you're telling it to me in your face, in my face. And when I've said something sometimes, well, it's too hard. It's too hard to work on your capacity to be aware of yourself, the mind and thoughts and emotions, and to pause and breathe and say, let me count to 5 and 10, and let me choose to replace that maladaptive child behavior / adaptive child behavior, shame, blame, fault, revenge, whatever, inner critic, outer critic, fucking, drugging, drinking, don't even matter, projecting to some poor cashier lady your attitude, your mood. You have no capacity to pause for 10 minutes, 10 seconds, however it is that you can, and then say, let me replace that reactivity with no reactivity. Let me go and do something I enjoy doing in my life. And if you don't have it, you find out. You test it out. Let me go and try to pleasure myself, not with any of that capacity of, no, with, I don't know, a swim. How about journaling? How about music? You can. It's not hard unless you want to be a 12 to 24 who is spiting and really, again, so here's why it's quite straightforward. I know when you do personal development is what you hear from people after having done EMDR, child parts work, and somatics, good therapy, or therapy overall. And that's where, when we have any of those people, they're not people we date. By the way, romantically, you don't date push and pull. They're not dating material. They're still working with unfinished business. So they're only, if you will, excuse me, dating material for the people who are not part of the lovely, I want to love. The ones of us who want to love, we say open-hearted and we have conversations. It does not mean we insult each other. Pacha and Cusco. We get to live with Cusco, even if Cusco's bullshitting us in our face at the end of the journey, because we understand, Apacha is the community here, that safe haven, secure base is not a competition. You do embody pure, unconditional love, consciousness when you're an integrated brain. It's what you learn from Daniel Siegel, too. It's secure attachment, differentiated self, your whole 1-year-old, 3-year-old right here As a grown woman, it's you using this and being self aware to the extent of I'm accountable and regulating myself when I have panic attacks. It's not a competition. I started to work on it because I could. Why not? I didn't go to clinical dissociation. And in fact, I kept check on one thing and one thing for sure, my physical health, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't physically dying, and I wasn't, and I still don't. And sometimes I still go into my modes, but I'm so used to them. I know how to get out of those stories. And it's like, yeah, it's some other ascension energy. It's okay. Let's get through the day today, and then tomorrow will be a new day. But what I'm saying is, I stayed grounded, and I was always checking to make sure that it wasn't something important that needed attention. And that's where I've noticed those who don't do any of this. They have spiritual bypassers who push buttons in a way that should not, could not, don't have to. Yeah, they don't take mental hygiene or mental health seriously. They think like this shaman who goes on camera and says, "Don't go to therapy, come and do a shamanic ritual. I'll get rid of the 10 years of therapy that you have to do." It's like, no, no, you won't. You don't know anything about this person's history. You're going to maybe clear some of the, I know what they're clearing. You're not going to help them in their day to day life. They leave your ritual going back to what is their day to day routine, and you've basically had somebody spend money, and their life is not going to necessarily improve in all the ways it could had they taken ownership with a good therapist and then continued a certain type of journey. Because that's the part that none of those who are in the spiritual bypassing community seem to be aware of when they're giving you spiritual awakening guidance, is that you get to keep on looking to grow up from here and become the full-fledged whole self. Your 0 1 year old attached panicky, your 3 to 7 shame submissive, your freeze of all ages, your flight 11 12, your fight 14 15 16. That's my lovely Sue Martin, who shared with me our charged states. When you're adult, your higher self is your prefrontal cortex. So no matter what somebody spits in your face or behind your back, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Anybody else want to join the bandwagon of the not evil people? Because really, unkindness is a person who has not healed their maladaptive child behavior or adaptive child behavior, which is pretty sad. Cultural trauma, transgenerational trauma, emotional abuse, emotional neglect, physical abuse, physical neglect. There's nothing evil. There's something really sad. It's called people who need good therapy. And as for the other ones, they end up in jail, and it's still sad. Actually, the good thing about them ended up in the jails is that they can get good therapy, and there's plenty of good ones that go to support people. So spirituality, we are all a spiritual process. Once you begin to understand that it's called use your human name, getting home to your whole self is you being able to be a person who knows that all personalities are unique to their own, and that the attachment category and what the self of you is something you can work on. The styles also are something that are different. It's for grown-ups, but again, you can move into earn secure attachment. And then the fact that you're aware, so mindfulness helps you to be aware, but that you can contain this and then become your observer. And that's where the therapists support you with this. As our lovely Bezel van der Kolk shares, a therapist can, for the time being, play that role of being an external observer sometimes. But the real role of the therapist is to activate the internal self-observation part. So when you learn to become your own observer, this is where you learn how to become aware, and then you learn, I'm going to take my solo self and connect and have meaning thanks to others. So you want to work on the behavior because you want to have more human love journey with each other. And so personalities are not reasons for us to be distancing each other. Dating is because we have fun together and we have direct communication, and that's unconditionally loving each other and just speaking. And that's what self-empowerment, self-worth, confidence actually is. It's emotionally mature men, women, and theys. Join us, and we'll be back with more. Have a great one.